For those just joining, my name is Jim Herr. I'm the director of the Democracy Center here at JANM. And I know today has been a pretty heavy day to start out. We intended to have this journey for you. So it's not just the journey of this narrative that we're trying to create for you doesn't end with this heaviness. As we go through the day, it will get lighter because we know that we really want people to leave here energized with a sense of joy, with a sense of celebration and community. Hopefully you had a chance to visit monuments. Again, if you come back tomorrow and show your badge at the membership desk, you will be able to see it again. But it is also an exhibition that's incredibly sobering, and we'll hear more about that later in our panel. But the journey we're taking on today does not end with these emotions. Our journey is a reminder of the complex issues that come with this type of work. Moments of frustration and anger can and should be tempered into moments of solidarity and success, and that resistance is an important and essential part of celebrating the joys and key celebrations and elements of our work. One thing that has stood out today and that has been sort of a thread for us as we were putting this program together is how important and incredibly powerful narratives are. They're used to shape who gets to belong, whose suffering counts, and also whose future can be seen. We also are thinking about how narratives are shaped by mythology and also by nostalgia. I heard at a conference this past fall that nostalgia is the enemy of memory. The accusation is that they are trying to change the story we have told ourselves, trying to rewrite American mythology, and that's a quote. But we aren't trying to do that because we know the story. We know the story that we were told because it's a story we were told from the time we were children, and that's the problem. It is a story. It is a story that at best is incomplete and at worst just fabrication and lies. We're not here to rewrite history, but to make history whole. And that's what I've been hearing, and we've all been hearing from colleagues across the country. How do we tell stories that are honest enough to actually hurt, but also generous enough that they actually help heal? Because nostalgia is not strategy. That's what Mark Carney said at Davos this week. It is not strategy, but truth, memory, and collective courage still are. And that's where arts and culture and memory come in. And that's going to be our last stop on the journey today. You cannot talk about democracy without including arts and culture. They are at the very core of who we are as a people, who we imagine we can be, and the creativity and energy to get us there. Storytelling, visual arts, performance, dance, music, they are not just decorations to the movement. They are what animate the movement. They help people see a broader sense of self, a broader sense of who they can be and who we all can be, a broader sense of a more pluralistic, we are the people. And we have an amazing lineup of speakers and panelists later on today who are going to talk to just that. Artists and culture bearers who understand the importance and the immediacy of the moment. And then we'll close the day with some of the best that LA has to offer, because I love LA. Come on, people, don't let me down. I love LA. So we'll have artists and musicians and dancers, and we will leave here with pounding hearts and dancing feet. But our first stop on this journey this afternoon was we returned to Los Angeles, our imperfect paradise. As I said, I love LA. Oh, come on, people. Okay, I give up. And we're running out of time. I've lived here for nearly half my life. I was one of those people that came to LA on a vacation, and if I could have figured out a way to stay, I never would have left. But when I eventually did get back here, and it took me a while, I came back here without a job, without a place to live, and without knowing anyone. It was such a great plan. Like, what could go wrong? But that's what makes LA special. You can create the future for yourself and for those you love. And while I never found the life that I thought that I would have when I moved out here, the life that I found was far beyond anything I could have dreamed. I now live and work in Little Tokyo, but Little Tokyo has been a home to my professional life ever since I started in this work, because this is where community lives, grows, and thrives, and cares for one another. That's why it was especially horrifying to see my neighborhood become ground zero for the actions of an administration that have turned abject cruelty into policy. My street was the site of nightly protest. It pained me to see every morning when I would walk the streets to JANM, the aftermath, the graffiti, the vandalism, the boarded up walls and windows. But I promise you, if you took just a moment, you could see the frustration, the anger, the pain of a voiceless few whose tears were mixed with that pain. But the damage they caused was nothing compared to seeing armed agents of my government hunt people on our Democracy Plaza. It was a complete insult to the memory and history of Japanese Americans and the pain that was inflicted on them on this very spot 80 years ago. This wasn't an accident, and some people say they came to LA because it was low-hanging fruit. But I say they came here because they figured if they could break Los Angeles, they could break any place. But they weren't paying attention because we cannot be broken. And we continue to rise to the moment. We continue to do that with amazing leadership. The people that we're going to hear from today bring that kind of passion to their work and the work that they have done through their entire careers. They are leaders in philanthropy, in media, and in immigration rights. They embody that response that we are taking. They are public servants, organizers, and storytellers who understand that resistance is not just about opposition, it's about imagination. And to introduce them and to be your guide for this next stop on our journey is someone we couldn't think of better to talk about this panel. He's one of Los Angeles' most trusted voices whose work is lived experience on the ground, brave storytelling, and a deep love for this, our city of angels. Please join me and give a warm welcome to the incredible Gustavo Arellano.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Here's the caveat or the full disclosure. I'm not from LA, I'm from Orange County. Orange County, oh, we have some Orange County people here. But I do love LA. LA is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, not just the culture, the climate, but especially the people and especially the history. The history. The best and the worst of the American experience has happened in Los Angeles, right here in this area. We've seen it before, we're seeing it right now. So it really is an honor to be able to be part of this amazing panel. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read the bios that are in this program. Then after I introduce my compas y comadre, my buddies, because that's what we are. Like we all know each other. We all love each other. We know our stories. We're old hats at this point. Angelica, Memo, and Miguel were at a previous panel just last night. So it's like a road show of these things. But I think it's wonderful because it shows that people want to hear from folks from different aspects of life how they got to where we're at. So I'm going to do introduction, the formal introduction that's in here. Then I'm going to give my introduction to each person. Nothing bad. So I'm going to go from my left going this way. So we'll start with Angelica Salas. And the reason I'm doing it is because each person here has, of course, they have a unique perspective. We all have unique perspectives. But I think, especially for this moment, they all embody something. A moment, a movement, whatever you want to call it. And so we're all in communication with each other, and all these disparate moments and movements have to be in communication with each other. So Angelica Salas is the Executive Director of Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, CHIRLA, the acronym. She has transformed CHIRLA into a mass membership, immigrant-led organization that empowers immigrants and their families to win local, state, and national policies to advance human, civil, and labor rights. She has grown CHIRLA into one of the nation's largest and most effective immigrant rights organizations. She has spearheaded ambitious statewide and national campaigns to expand immigrant rights. That's a really good bio. I have a better one. Angelica is an immigrant from the wonderful state of Durango, northern Mexico. En Durango comenzó su carrera de chingona. The Mexicans in the audience get it. The song is called Corrido de Pancho Villa, but I'm making it in honor of Angelica. And Chingano, of course, is a badass woman. That's who she is. Angelica, her family, came to Pasadena, a city that historically we associate with richness, with the Rose Parade, but it's also the city of Jackie Robinson, experiencing segregation of Latino communities. They came here undocumented. She and her family were undocumented. They were able to naturalize their status. And she came of age of activism in the 1990s, the last big era, at least public era, of demonization of undocumented communities. And so when I think about the immigrant rights movement in Los Angeles, in Southern California, I think of Angelica Salas, because she is that amazing. So round of applause for Angelica. So the immigrant perspective. To her left, Miguel Santana is president and CEO of the California Community Foundation, one of Southern California's largest and most active philanthropic organizations, which has served Angelenos for more than a century. CCF stewards $2.3 billion in assets and manages more than 1,900 charitable foundations, funds, and legacies. Previously, Santana served as president and CEO of the Weingart Foundation. Miguel, you ever hear about it's not whoever's in front of the camera, but it's the person behind the person who has the real power? That's Miguel. Miguel is one of the most knowledgeable and powerful people when it comes to how to run LA, not just on a municipal level, but a cultural level, an empathetic level, all of that. He is the son of immigrants. He grew up in Bell Gardens at a time, a small city in southeast LA County, at a time of a huge demographic shift where the people around there went from working class white to working class Latinos, and the old guard was not happy with it. Southeast LA County soon became synonymous with problems, with crime. Let me put in better context. Media problems, media depictions, crime, all of the bad things, and somehow a worse place. Miguel stayed in this beloved metropolis of his, and he started connecting with two of the most important minds and hearts that Los Angeles has seen in the past two generations. Gloria Molina and Antonia Hernandez. That's why Miguel calls himself a proud feminist. So he went through, under Gloria, he went in Los Angeles, he was in the Weingart, he was now with CCF, but I think Miguel was happiest when he was in charge of the LA County Fairgrounds. Because there you just deal with cows and all that stuff. But no, and there's a thing, Miguel being he's the person who knows what needs to be done, but he's also one of the humblest, kindest, but also forthright people you will ever meet. This is someone who is consequential to how we move forward and how we have been moving forward in Los Angeles. So round of applause for Miguel. And the newest compa in this group, he's the new kid in town, the way the Eagles sang a long time ago. I like the Eagles too much. Don't hold it against me. And I just heard it this morning, so. Memo Torres at the very left. He's a real rock star among all of us. I've already seen at least 4 people go up to Memo. I'm a big fan, but why are they a fan of him? Let's say it. Memo Torres is Director of Engagement and a multimedia journalist for the James Beard Award-winning LA Taco. He is also the host of the Daily Memo, where he recaps all ICE and Border Patrol raids nightly. Yes. He also writes a food guide for Apple Maps' Where Memo Torres Eats in LA. You can see him. We should just talk about tacos. Like, we want lightheartedness, then we could just talk food. And we are going to talk about food, by the way. You can see him on Netflix's Taco Chronicles and Pressure Cooker, 2 great shows. You can hear him on KCRW's Good Food occasionally. He has received various recognitions and awards and was also finalist for the Ruben Salazar Award for Latino journalist and a former third-generation landscaper. So Memo, like myself, a child of immigrants from the state of Zacatecas, right next to Durango, son of LA, went to Loyola High, smart kid, went up to Berkeley, came back, joined the family business as a landscaper, but was looking to do something about him, just cycled through various jobs here and there with landscaping being his thing. And he had a big company. At one point he had 25 employees, had big contracts. And what are one of the most important things that one of the most important pieces of knowledge that blue collar workers have? They know where to go eat. Always asked all the blue collar folks, they know where the good spots and all of that. And that's how Memo started writing about food. He first got noticed for an Instagram account the label is still his, El Dragón de Los Angeles. In Spanish means basically the LA glutton. Like Pac-Man just eating nonstop. And he connected with this really great for-profit, not a nonprofit news agency, for-profit news agency called LA Taco. LA Taco literally, it originally started just street art and tacos, eventually started turning into something more hard news and all of that. And so Memo was in charge of kind of like public relations, getting connections with taqueros to do discounts for LA Taco members and all of that. And then last year happened. Last year, 2025. And Memo saw something that angered him. That angered all of us. But this is a man who had spent his entire career really in the realm of taking care of his children, his own life, and eating food. But something sparked in him. So he decided to do what I said earlier, Daily Memo. And it's basically the deportation diary that none of us ever asked for. If you have not seen it already, I see some of it, not right now, you're all polite, but in the previous panel, I saw some of you working on your iPhones. I was one of them, by the way. So he with, cast for stone, whatever. But if you could all pull out your cell phones right now, if you have Instagram and at home as well, follow LA Taco. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to do this. I'm serious. If you do not follow LA Taco at all, now's the time to do it. 5 days a week. 2-minute, 3-minute reel, and he goes through all the ICE abductions that have happened in Southern California. Describes what happens. He is our Edward R. Murrow. And if you do not, someone's getting a phone call too. If you do not know who Edward R. Murrow is, he is the CBS broadcaster who in the 1950s single-handedly knocked down McCarthyism. Government tried to get rid of him, and he would not be gotten rid of. That is who Memo Torres is. Round of applause for Memo.
Hello? Oh, here we go. Thank you for indulging me in being able to do these bios. And what I'm going to do is ask each of them questions about their life in a little bit, because I always, when I do these things, I always try to go with what the topic is. And what's the topic again? I forgot. I'm not lying, by the way. I forget. How does a city respond? We have here 3 life examples of responses to the issue of Los Angeles, period, but especially in this past 2025. So the first thing, I'll just ask all of you, how are y'all doing? ¿Cómo se sienten? How are you feeling right now? I'm starting with Angelica.
Well, the first thing, how I'm feeling, the first thing, I think the spirit calls me to say thank you. So I'm very grateful for all the people who've actually supported us. So I really want to name Nisei Progressives, JANM, Little Tokyo Service Center, and all the organizations that have really come to our rescue, to support us. who have welcomed us here when we've had rallies. And so I just really want to say thank you, because there's so much gratitude in my heart for all the good people, because what I've been able to see over this time is like genuinely good people speaking up and standing up, and that is in my heart equally, or maybe more so, I hope. And that's the discipline that I have to have, than the anger that I feel. I feel incredibly angry. I feel angry at this government for everything it's doing, but I think I feel more angry at all the politicians that could have done something in the past to provide legalization, path to citizenship, and didn't, because they were cowardly. And so that gratefulness, and I think, I do feel like that gratefulness is embedded in a lot of love that I feel, and that anger together are really motivating. So I feel very lucky that I get to every morning wake up and do something about stopping what's happening to the people that I work with, the people that are in my own family, that I get to do something about that. And so I just say, okay, one more day where I can stop this horribleness from happening, and can we channel some of that energy towards something positive that can really bring freedom. And I would say to my people.
Yeah. ¿Cómo estás, Miguel?
You know, I'm feeling very purposeful. I'm feeling that my entire life experience, my education, my work experience has prepared me for this moment. And even, experiences I had as a young child. My parents were undocumented growing up, so it was something that I always felt and knew. I was telling the story recently about how as kids we used to play La Migra.
Same.
And not knowing but not knowing. Right?
Basically, a Mexican-American version of hide and go seek, where someone would shout La Migra, the people who would run would be undocumented folks, and then the people who would chase them would be La Migra.
So it was part of our childhood. It was something we knew. In the 5th grade, I was part of this little project, because I was a nerd in 5th grade, and I'm still a nerd, called Long, Long Ago, where we would interview different neighbors and folks in the community who and hear their life stories. And it was through that project that I met a woman who was interned during World War II. And I heard her story as a 5th grader, something that we weren't taught in the classroom, but I heard her story, and I knew at that point from that story, I understood what injustice was. And I had grown up with the premonition of this based on that experience. So for me, I feel very focused, feel very intentional, and frankly, very privileged to be in the place where I am now to support these two amazing leaders and the work that they do, and so many others. And a huge sense of responsibility to speak up, to not hide in the ivory tower that philanthropy often does, roll up my sleeves, and join the movement for justice.
¿Qué tal, güey?
Forgot to ask. Is this PG-13? Can I cuss? Because I have a Berkeley education
you
with
can do R.
blue-collar tongue. So.
Yeah.
Because you asked me how I'm feeling, like, fuck. I'm a cyclone of emotions, man. I mean, first of all, I want to say thanks to JANM for doing this and keeping history alive. I also got to thank California Community Fund, because they've been supporting the work I'm doing at LA Taco. So thank you. And CHIRLA, of course, we're supporting all the rapid responders out there, which is people that I work closely with out there. It's really become a community effort. So I'm feeling very hopeful in that sense. The way LA has come together through grassroots organizations, through the rapid responders, the communities out there, the organizing. I'm also feeling frustrated because it's really down to a few people doing a massive amount of work out on the streets. And I really wish I could see more of LA come out. I mean, I was telling Gustavo earlier, like, what's it going to look like when Bovino decides to bring 3,000 troops here? Right now, we're only dealing with a couple hundred, and we're having trouble keeping up with all the raids and everything happening. So what happens when 3,000 come? Is LA going to show up the way Minneapolis has? Is it going to organize itself? So in that sense, I'm a little fearful, but I am hopeful. And I also just feel very appreciative for the recognition everybody's giving me and all the appreciation and love. I really appreciate all that. It motivates me and makes me realize that what I'm doing is right and that you guys do look for it and do need it and do appreciate it. So that helps me keep going. So thank you for all that.
Memo, I didn't mean to simplify your life in the bio. Obviously, you have been fighting the good fight in your own way for a long time. No, but we're amongst two legends here. That's the Angelica and Miguel. They've been doing it since we were in high school because we're both kind of the same age, and it's been amazing to see their careers. So you, of all people, could have easily been excused. You know what? I'm just going to continue doing my taco work, and that's important. Like covering working class restaurants, puestos, and all of that. That is such essential work. But describe to us the moment where you realize, you know what? I just can't stick to one thing. I got to start moving on to something that's going to put me out there more, and that's going to change my life.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't switch because it was going to put me out there more and switch my life. I didn't realize till 2 weeks in, I was like, fuck, what the hell did I get myself into? I just committed myself to doing this thing daily. That's a lot of work. But the moment happened when the June 6th raids happened and we started seeing the raids constantly. And at LA Taco, we have a saying, we celebrate the taco lifestyle. And at that point, it felt like, read the room. Like, how are you going to go celebrate tacos when the people are literally being attacked and taken? We started seeing taco vendors getting picked up during the day in East LA and Monterey Park. And it was just like, that's not the moment for this anymore. People need to know what's happening. So it was like, and then I just, fortunately my life has been this weird, I have like a Forrest Gump life, man. I've had like 23 different jobs. I've worked with countless people. I know people in all different areas. And even the work through LA Taco has gave me so many connections to the point where like, it just felt like my whole life came to that moment. And like you were saying earlier in my introduction, it was very accurate. It's like, I just always felt like, where's my, what should I be doing? I don't want to be doing landscaping. I want to do this. And it just kind of like a switch turned on and like I went into automatic mode. I didn't even think about it. Like, this is what I had to do. And this is what I need to cover. And it just didn't feel right trying to be like, hey, I just had a great taco while Migra's literally chasing like people down the street. So I was like, this is the time to pause that and to turn the attention at the people getting attacked.
You mentioned earlier your frustration at the fact that you're not seeing the community response in LA the way we've seen in Chicago, the way we've seen in Minneapolis, the way we'll see in other places. And you and I, we know people, there are relatives, who don't have a problem with ICE coming in until they finally do. Until there's just like, nope, forget it, I'm done. What do you think is the moment, and what do you think is the moment that do make people finally respond and say no? How much more do they have to see before it ticks in them?
Yeah, I don't know. And for the record, to be clear, there are people doing the work, and they're really like every single morning. And I'm in chats with them, and they're like every morning from 5:36 in the morning, they're going down to Terminal Island to do the bolos, be on the lookouts for the trucks, the vans that are going to go out. They're on the streets. They're even like supporting each other, going from different communities when they know the Border Patrol's in one neighborhood, other people go and join them. And those people do so much work and they have so much respect. So when people thank me, I'm always like, thank them. Because I can't even report on anything if it's not for those folks being out there and documenting and reporting everything to me. So like I'm just the tip of the spear. It's really the community. So they need a lot more help. And there's glaring holes. Like in San Fernando Valley, there's like barely any responders out there. There's areas where people are getting taken we don't hear about. I'm only reporting on what I hear about. You know, and I'll talk to people from CHIRLA, some of your folks, and they'll be like, yeah, there was way more people taken than you got. And I'm like, I know, it just, you know, this is only what I could verify what people caught. Yeah, and it's just like I think what's another frustrating thing is that, like, you know, sometimes I still talk to people and they're like, is this still going on? I thought they were gone. You know, I thought they were in Minnesota. I thought they were in Chicago. You know, like they're not in LA anymore. Like literally, I had a Twitter beef or Blue Sky beef. Fuck Twitter. But yeah, I had beef with somebody. They're like, no, they're not in LA. I'm like, they are literally here in LA. Like I document this every single day. And they're like, well, it's not as bad. I'm like, I don't care the scale of it. Every fucking abduction is bad. You know, I don't care if it's 10 people or 100 people. Like every single one of those is a human being that was ruthlessly violated, assaulted, and hurt. You know, and a family got separated. So, yeah, I mean, I just want to figure out how to get the word out more. My goal is to get the word out more, and how do we motivate more of Angelenos to get out there to create rapid response groups or join one and monitor the city and then get in contact and set up this network like Minneapolis did.
Yeah. Miguel, you were in the corridor, like the literal corridors of power in the county level, on the city level. You could have continued along that path, like officially, you know, like even run for office or lo que sea. What was it about the nonprofit sector that made you think this is my way to be able to help my community?
Well, I mean, one thing that that I am grounded in it is that my first real job in this work was working at MALDEF.
Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund.
And that's where I kind of took the idea of injustice and realized there's an entire way of committing your career to it and your life's work to it. And it was during the time of 187 that I was there. And
Proposition 187. You want to remind people what it was?
Sure. I mean, it was, I described it earlier today as, you know, it was a proposal to basically operationalize what we're experiencing now at a statewide level, turning every government employee into an arm of, at that point, INS. Denying the undocumented any service at all, from emergency rooms, healthcare, education. And it's also an example of how our democracy works. So it was voted by the people of California. It's hard to imagine now, but the entire ticket for every statewide office was Republican in that election.
It was 1994.
1994. I was in the middle of it, was actively involved in the campaign against it at MALDEF, and then with Supervisor Gloria Molina. And I say it's an example of how democracy worked because it was immediately taken to the courts by MALDEF and other civil rights organizations, and it was never enacted. And the reason, the legal theory was that immigration enforcement is not a state issue; it's a federal issue. So it was, what we're experiencing today is 100 times, 1,000,000 times worse because it is being enacted, and it is undemocratic, and it's not about immigrants. It's about dismantling our democracy. That's what we're experiencing today.
But in the nonprofit world, what did you see being in those corridors that made you think I can help to transform Southern California into a place closer to that ideal of justice and resistance?
So, you know, I worked at the county. Working for Gloria was like working for a bigger cause. There was certainly advancing the issues that she led on, and then transitioned to the city as city administrative officer. But in my 8 years at the city, and I'll be candid, and I felt like I was becoming an enabler of a broken system, and I started feeling less and less connected to the person that I started off at MALDEF. And so you would think, so you went to run a fair. That makes a lot of logical sense. And I went to run a fair, which is a $100 million independent nonprofit, because I wanted to be connected to community. And if you've been to the LA County Fair, it's about community. It has a mission and purpose, and that brought me back to the person that I started in my early 20s. And the nonprofit space, philanthropy, has really been the one place where I truly get to be myself, get to advance the issues that I care about, utilize all of my skills, and really give me the opportunity to respond to what's happening, both in a reactive way and, as important, in a proactive way.
Do you think you've done good?
In what way?
I'm leaving it open-ended.
I think I could always do better, and I'm very proud of my career and things that I've done. But I think about the arc of what needs to happen, and and the thing that really I learned from Gloria is that, and I answer it that way because one of the issues I've worked on my entire career is the issue of homelessness, and have led initiatives, ballot measures, helped create systems, pilot programs, and initiatives. And yet on my way home, I will see at least 5 unhoused people. So for me, I would give myself an F for that. And so it's that sense of being real and honest that drives me, and I think that's an important thing to be reminded of. That it doesn't matter what fancy titles you have or what schools you went to. What most matters is how real people are experiencing day-to-day life, and that's what ultimately determines whether or not I did good or not.
Angelica, what was your entry point into La Lucha, into the struggle?
Well, my life, maybe it is. And I say that because I came to this country to be reunited with my dad and my mom, who had come to work here. My dad came first, then my mom. We lived with my grandmother in Durango, La Sierra de Durango. I'm a proud Mexican immigrant. Shout out to COFAM, the Council on Federation for all our Mexicano organizations. I'm a proud Mexicana, but I've lived here most of my life, so I'm just as American as I am Mexicana.
¿Cómo que no?
So we came here. We were, with my sister, my uncle, and my aunt. We were unaccompanied minors. We crossed that border to be here in Pasadena. And so I grew up as a child with we were all scared of La Migra. And then I also saw my family arriving, and nobody arrived on a plane, nobody arrived on a train, everybody arrived crossing that border. And my house was the place where they would get better. Like they would sleep sometimes all day because whatever they went through was really bad. And also I remember, I have images of my mom cleaning the sores of my uncle's feet. And there's just lots of things like that. And so for us, it was just like, this is our life. And then my mom was a garment worker, and here in LA, her place got raided. Just everybody was always scared of La Migra. And then they raided my mom's garment factory. And so she was taken, my uncle was taken, my aunt was taken. They were all deported back to Mexico. And I just remember my dad just being so scared about everything. I'm the oldest, by the way. I'm the oldest of 4. And so then my dad's like, tienes que ser responsable. You have to be responsible because, this is what happened. So, and so that I always think of the children. I always think of the children and what they're going through just as much as I think about their parents. And then I think about how scared they are and how we have to really understand that for them, the most important people are their parents, and that is their safety net. And so then the other part of why I got into the lucha was because fast forward, my dad, after this raid that happened, he goes to an organization, the International Institute of LA. I found that out after he passed away. I was looking all his documents. And my dad went to get help to an organization, and that organization actually helped him figure out that we qualified for something called La Carta Silva, and that it's a big class action lawsuit, and that we could legalize our status. And then soon after that, amnesty passes. Again, you don't know anything about immigration. You don't know anything. I was a 15-year-old who could use a typewriter, and I saw that amnesty transform our family's life.
In 1986.
In 1986. And I saw it. I saw my uncles and aunts and everybody who was undocumented, my uncles who worked in the fields, my uncles who worked in restaurants, who worked as roofers. All of a sudden, all of these folks were able to legalize their status. And I remember, because I knew the typewriter, they would come back and they would say, "Mija, I got it." And I really believe deeply that we don't deserve to live like this. We just don't deserve to live without the ability to just wake up every morning and just feel like I'm able to come home. I'm able to just live a normal life and not feel like the way you feel like la migra, like somebody's going to catch you and somebody's going to do harm in any moment. You're going to lose everything you've built. So why did I get in the lucha? Because I didn't understand that my reality was replicated by millions of people until I got to college. I became a machista. Thank God for Mecha. And I became a machista. I became politicized. I was the chair of Mecha. And then I went to the East Coast, and guess what? Right there, I saw my people again, from Guerrero, from Guatemala, and other people who were in the same situation now coming in the 90s. It's like the same thing playing over and over again. And then Prop 187 happened, came home, and I got involved in CHIRLA, and 30 years later, I'm still there.
30 years is a lifetime, especially the work that you do. It can weigh on you. And most people would say you have every right to move on to whatever's next. Most people usually do. Why have you stayed specifically at CHIRLA?
Well, first of all, I am the organization that I represent is made up of people who are domestic workers, day laborers, immigrant students in high schools, colleges, gardeners. They are entrepreneurs. They have businesses. And I get to work with them. We're a membership organization. We have committees. They're my bosses, and I get so inspired by them and their willingness to do these really, really hard jobs every day and then still participate at CHIRLA and be active. And so with them, every year, we've been able to advance. I started during the time of Prop 187, when I always remind everybody California was the most anti-immigrant state. But little by little, with them and with their leadership and their vision for a better life, we've been able to open up, in-state tuition, the California Dream Act, so that our undocumented students could go on to college. Businesses, undocumented business owners can have a license. They can, do all sorts of different kinds of trades. We have the driver's license.
Sanctuary policy.
A sanctuary, which were so hard. None of this was easy. None of it. The driver's license. We need to say that over again. I'm the most proud of all the work that we've done to open up Dream Resource Centers at colleges, now in high schools, because the way that I think about it, just like my mom didn't go to school. She learned to read and write as an adult. My dad went to the 6th grade. They came to this country so that I could have a better life. And so when I do anything that advances the ability for their children to be able to do something, it feels to be like that's what I'm honoring their sacrifice. And so why do I stay? Because I deeply, deeply in my heart and in every part of every part of me believes in the power of people. the power of people. And I believe in my community, and that with them, we are going to change this country just like we've changed California.
We're still living through this moment, but the history is already being written, and the date that we all go to this moment is the weekend of June 6th, when there was that raid at the Fabrica right there near downtown LA, when as a labor leader was thrown to the ground and arrested. When you saw what happened that weekend, given your life experience, what did you think you needed to do as a response that was going to be different from what you have done? So for all of you.
Well, very quickly, what had happened is we knew raids were coming. I mean, we took...
And sorry to interrupt, but just to remind you folks, these abductions, whatever you want to call them, have been happening. It's not like out of nowhere it came. It had been happening, but just the visibility of them.
Yeah. And so actually the Rapid Response Network started in 2006 during the Obama, 2006, and then during the Bush era, and then after that with Obama. So the Rapid Response Networks are not new. They're just so much more amplified. Why? Because we got together, Paco can tell you this, we got together and we said after November, we're like, okay, we're taking this seriously. We have to ramp up the rapid response networks. We have to, be ready. Our labor community and faith table, we gotta be organized during this time because he, believe what he says he's gonna do to us. And so that's what we did. And, but see, the raids, the way I imagined them, is the way they had happened before, which is raids have happened, immigration enforcement happens, but it happens in a targeted way, and it happens if you have a big, massive worksite raid. It usually is, that's the raid, bring a lot of cameras in, and then you'll have another one in a month or in a couple, but what happened on June 6th is something I never, in 30 years that I've talked, and lots of raids and lots of response to enforcement, I'd never seen anything. First, on June 6th, it was 7 raids in a day. 7 raids in a day. And then the militarization, the garb, the masks, the guns, again, not seen before. I actually was I responded to the raid because through our rapid response network where David was being arrested. David Huerta was being arrested. And when I arrived at the scene, I was like, whoa, this is I just couldn't imagine. I could not believe my eyes. Number one, a paramilitary force. Number 2, already David had just been picked up from the ground. I'm witnessing him being taken into now the ambulance. He had been knocked really silly. I mean, really silly in the sense that, he had been hit so hard. I was afraid that he had
concussion
because they hit him on the curb of the sidewalk. Yeah, the curb of the sidewalk, and then of course all the rapid responders, but also a lot of the community. This is a working class area, so there was just all the people who are coming out of the businesses, the vendors, everybody. So there's just a big crowd. And then I see LAPD. And then I was like, you'll see this if they ever have their body camera. I just walked around. I said, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. You are not supposed to be here. And I was so furious because all the work that we had done around police-ICE collaboration, you're not supposed to be here. I then recognized that they had, they're taking people out. And then I kept hearing through my phone and rapid response that they had hit in the morning, they had hit Hollywood, they had already picked up people walking in the streets and the sidewalks. There was so much happening during that day, out of control. So, and I'll be a little briefer because then the next day, that morning with the rapid response, the whole point of the rapid response doesn't center ICE. It centers our people, by the way. It's like, who got detained? Let's go to B18, which is downtown, just around the corner here, to get them out. That's the point of the rapid response network, is to make sure our people have access to legal counsel. So they closed down, completely shut down B18 and weren't letting us in. We go the next day, they tell us be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and this is when I realized more things have changed. They locked it down. I witnessed vans of people being, vans being filled with people, no access, even as we're seeing them coming in, and then they put tear gas out. And
this is at the Metropolitan Detention Center.
yes, this is the next day on June 7th.
Yeah, not too far away from here.
Yeah,
We
and
could all
then-
walk afterwards.
Exactly. And then we have Paramount happening. So then Monday I go to Adelanto, because now some of our folks, because they moved them out, I go to Adelanto, and as I'm at Adelanto, and again they're not letting us in Adelanto. And then the next thing I see, again through the rapid response, car wash after car wash after car wash being hit that day. And then I said, okay, this is crazy. I didn't even know. I have to just tell you, I'm driving back from Adelanto, and I'm just thinking to myself, what in the world? How are we going to respond to this? And all we could do is get back together. We meet on Tuesdays. Paco knows this. We meet on, and we just said, okay, new game plan.
Yeah. Miguel?
So I was at a CCF board meeting on January 6th and July 6th. June 6th, yes. There were other things happening on January 6th that also impacted
and a place like this, we have to think about that as well.
Yeah, so, but you know, I remember the conversation I had with my board before the November election, and preparing them for what was happening, what was going to happen, and so being clear about what the role of CCF is at that time. How do we have to support the infrastructure of the rapid response team of our partners on the ground, but being much broader in our thinking to support media to understand what's happening, and to warn them as well that my premonition had been that we ourselves may be under attack for doing all these things, and that at this time we have to make a decision as to how we're going to show up. And this is a conversation that many of my colleagues in philanthropy have been having. Is it a time to hide, or is it a time to become louder? And we saw what happened to the universities as institutions. We saw what's happening to the law firms, the direct attacks on them, cultural institutions, and the clear understanding, as in any form of dictatorship that's emerging, going after civil society is part of the formula. You dismantle civil society, you dismantle any form of resistance, certainly funders of resistance. And so we, in some ways, when June 6th came, it was a validation of what the conversation we now had been having for months. Diana, who works at CCF but has CHIRLA in her heart because she's an alum of CHIRLA, shared with us in real time what was going on, and so it was frankly the day of greatest clarity for me about what our role had to be. And I'm very, very fortunate, and I can't say all my colleagues can say that I have a board who understands our purpose, who is steadfast in the work that we have to do, and agrees that it is our job to harness the privilege that we have. We are in a privileged position to utilize every single asset that we have in our disposal, certainly our grant making, but our voice and even our building. We are partnering with JANM with I Am Next. Every night when you drive home on the 101, you will see the faces of everyday Angelenos who have the courage to show their face, unlike those who mask their face, and ask the question, am I next? And we tell the story of the people who are disappeared to remind folks, number one, this is not normal, and these are human beings, these are our neighbors. And so but on June 6th is when it really clicked in, that this is what our work will be, and the real clarity of purpose.
Memo, you and the LA Taco team were on the ground throughout that whole weekend. Describe one of the places you were and what you were feeling from other folks. So not what you were feeling yourself, but what you were feeling from other folks that made you realize, like, es tiempo, it's time. Something's going to change.
Yeah, we were all out there. There was massive way. There was massive protests right away that whole weekend. I mean, I think it was like 9 days of protests. We were on the ground, and we were talking to a lot of people, and I'm getting a lot of messages from people all over the community. And yeah, people were freaked out. I mean, it was like nothing you've ever seen before, right? Masked, unidentified agents just grabbing people off the streets. It was unprecedented, like nothing anybody's ever seen before. And I remember being a kid and seeing raids, but it was not like that. Not like that it is today. Just a sense of fear. I mean, a lot of street vendors were just always constantly contacting me like, hey man, is it safe to go out or not? Even for like a week, like almost half the taqueros decided to just not come out. I think we wrote a story about that, and eventually they're like, well, we have to come out, and people were like, well, we have to go and work. So, and I remember, and even till to this day, like sometimes I'll go to a taco stand at night and ask them, like, aren't you guys afraid of being out here? Like, what's the deal? Like, and do you guys feel it's okay? They're like, dude, what are we gonna do? We're like, what are we gonna do, man? It's like, we gotta pay the rent. So it's like we either there kick us out of our house or to kick us out of the country. So we have to risk it. And that's a sentiment it's been since then. It was shock, first of all, and now it's just constant fear. And I won't forget, I remember I called the car wash one time to verify an incident of a raid, and the guy just tells me, man, he's like, dude, we live and work in fear every day. And that line just stuck in my head. And that's something that you hear, and that's something that you feel from everybody.
We hear a lot of praise for los buenos, the good people, the people who have been stepping up, the rapid response networks, the organizations like CHIRLA, independent journalism like LA Taco. What sector, or even individuals, if you're brave enough to do this, are you most disappointed by in Los Angeles in their response to what has happened? Give us the list, someone says.
I'll start with, I think we can influence. Let's start like there. So I want us to influence Chief McDonald, LAPD Chief McDonald. And I want you to really go to the police commission, talk, because what I really want is I want the ability of people from Los Angeles to be able to use their First Amendment rights, to be able to truly believe that there is that separation between ICE and the police. And I say this to you in the following. The reason I say this is that we have done so much work over so many decades in order for the police. Certainly is not, not being an arm of ICE and CBP, but I think they have to be bolder and really call the question about if they're going to be about public safety and they see people being brutalized in front of them, are they going to arrest those folks? Because, and I say that with all the respect for the people who work with us in LAPD, and so this is not because you have to, but I really think it's important that we do, because this is about Trump's terror patrol, and they are law enforcement. And within law enforcement, you have to abide by your own policies. Excessive use of force, warrants. Now they want to basically do away with judicial warrants. There's so many things about what we call constitutional policing. And I think that the only people that DHS and the Department of Homeland Security are going to listen to are going to be people in the military and people in law enforcement, because they're all law enforcement. And so what I feel it's important to say that. And you asked me about LA, but there was a vote yesterday on giving more money to ICE and the Border Patrol, and it passed. And it passed with Democrats supporting it. And so I need every single one of you to call Hakeem Jeffries and ask him, why did he not whip on that vote? And why did he accept that 7 Democrats helped Republicans give more money to this terror patrol?
On the House level, and it's going to go to the Senate level, so the Democrats on the Senate could still do what they need to do. A ver qué pasa. We'll see what happens. I'm just putting it out there. You got to give people...
But I think each step merits our engagement. Mm-hmm. That's why I think these are things that you can do. So imagine if each one of you actually put a place to call to Hakeem Jeffries and just said unacceptable, because this is why we're in the mess in the first place.
Yeah. Miguel.
You know, for me, I have a compare and contrast. So, you know, 2 dates from last year, I obviously confused them, are clear in my head. When the fires hit Los Angeles, we immediately galvanized. That's what our job is to be the vehicle where the community comes together to respond through fundraising. And in 30 days after the fire started, we raised $60 million. We gave out $30 million in 30 days. And we were able to support displaced workers, seniors, renters, people needing the most basic needs. We have since raised $100 million. Lot to celebrate. Yes, that deserves a huge celebration. It really showed how Angelenos showed up, opened up their hearts. We saw that, people donating, people coming together in phenomenal ways. When the raids hit, the mayor asked us if we would do a similar effort to support the families who are afraid to go outside, the families who have lost a breadwinner. And we certainly felt that the response was going to be comparable. We've raised $7 million. $7 million. Now you could say that's great, but for a place like Los Angeles,
$7 million over 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah,
I have called a lot of people in this town. When you give to CCF, you're giving to CCF. It doesn't say where it goes. Most of our grant making goes to education, so you could give anonymously. The amount of fear that there is to support our community financially is very, very clear. People, you know, when the Dodgers gave us $1 million, a lot of people felt it wasn't enough. Immediately, Stephen Miller attacked them. And that sent a chill, which was the purpose, to everyone else. That if you do this, we will do that to you. And so I'm really, this is our community. It's interesting. I get to talk to folks who are wealthy, and every single person of our donors has a story. There's a connection, their proximity to the community our community. It's not like it's happening to somebody else. Everybody knows somebody. Everybody. And some have been generous, but obviously the contrast explains it. I'm very disappointed in our signature industry, Hollywood. Completely irrelevant to what's happening. Individual actors have been phenomenal in their support, largely because they identify, they believe in what we're doing. Edward James Olmos and George Takei are featured at I Am Next, Eva Longoria and others, Oscar Isaac. But that's pretty much it. You know, whenever a celebrity gave money to our wildfire fund, they were tweeted and celebrated and make sure that's not happening. So it is shocking, frankly, the way in which the money in this town has decided to take a pass. And again, it's not everyone, but it's mostly everyone. And I think that has to change.
Memo.
You want me to call out names?
You know it. You're the reporter here. I can too, but I'm a moderator today.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, there are some politicians doing great work. Like Gila Solis with the county board has been doing great work. Sasha Renee Perez with the HB 805, the No Vigilantes with Scott Wiener. We have some of our city council members out there on the streets trying to visit families. You know who I haven't seen visit a single family? Mayor Bass. Our own mayor hasn't visited a single family that I know of. Instead, she's been out there, and I called her out several times. She has, she was going out there saying that they're not as bad anymore. We only had 2 or 3 raids. She's since switched up on it. I think she got the message. But I'm really and I went to city council and I called city council out. Monica Rodriguez invited me up there. I had no idea what I was doing there. She's like, "You're going to come testify." I'm like, "Okay." And I thought they were going to ask me questions. She's like, "Oh, here's the mic. Just say something." I'm like, "All right. Well, then what the fuck are you guys doing?" In a nutshell. So there's good actors in politics. Alex Padilla is over there. He got wrestled to the ground. He's constantly speaking up. But then there's other bad actors. Gavin Newsom. I'm really disappointed with Gavin Newsom. He hasn't done much. He's out there, he's got this Latina, great content creator, Latina running his press, his social media, and then he goes up with Ben Shapiro and then throws him under the bus. Like, oh yeah, I didn't agree with them calling ICE agents terrorists, domestic terrorists, and shit like that. Like, what the fuck are you doing? With this whole the no mask ban. I know a lot of insider baseball because I am friendly with a lot of senators too now because they all reach out and want to talk to me, which is great. So I know insider baseball. Basically, I know that for a fact that when that bill, the no masks for agents, was being passed, the biggest opposition was law enforcement. They're the ones that didn't want it approved. They're the ones that didn't want it passed, and because of that, they had to have an exemption in there where CHP was exempted for it to get the votes to get to be passed, which is now likely going to fail in courts against Trump administration unless they can amend it quickly enough. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think the biggest people need to be called out is police departments. Recently, we've been seeing them in Bell. There was a big protest in Bell because they took an autonomous responder named Ellie Hoodlove, who does a lot of great work. I'm in constant communication with him. I rely on him being out there a lot to verify stuff. Other cities, you constantly in Anaheim recently too. The Border Patrol called Santa Ana Police, CHP in Santa Ana to stop a girl that was following them and keeping track of where they were at and reporting on that. And the guy basically was like looking around the car, like, "I'm going to give you a ticket because you have no front license plate." Meanwhile, the Border Patrol car also did not have a front license plate. So, it's like, I'm thinking a lot about this, and probably today's Daily Memo, I'm going to do a big call out on police departments. I'm like, because I think it's bullshit. Like, they won't go and arrest an agent that's clearly violating somebody. They're masked, they're unidentified. Yet they'll go and arrest somebody on behalf of Border Patrol. It's like, no, if you're not going to get involved, then don't fucking get involved. Stay out of the way, like you said. Like, what are you doing here? Anyways, I'm really mad about a lot of that stuff, but yeah, I think the biggest problem is law enforcement getting in the way of state bills, getting in the way locally, getting in the way of responders. Who are they protecting and serving? That's the common question. So for me, the biggest obstacle is local law enforcement.
We're almost out of time, so I'm going to ask each of you to limit your response to my final question to a minute. The conversation was, or the topic was, how does the city respond? But please answer this. How should Angelenos respond to this moment right now?
I ask every single Angeleno to take action. How can you act? You can be part of the rapid response networks in your community. It simply says you'll be there for your neighbor. 2, donate to immigrant rights organizations. A lot of our monies have been cut. So support. It's really allowed us to keep doing the work we're doing. 3, each of you has a representative, city council. You have a congressional rep and a state rep. You need to know who they are. This is a moment for you to know who they are. And so I need you to stay active and let them know where you stand. If you support the immigrant community, if you believe that this cannot move forward the way it's moving, that this needs to stop, you need to let them know. And then you also need to let them know that you support the legalization of almost 13 million people in this country who do not have status. I need you to do that. That's what I need, how I need Los Angeles to show up, because it's not enough just to stop this terror. This terror can no longer happen in the future because people have freedom.
How should an Angeleno respond to this moment, Miguel?
They should respond.
You're on.
Yeah, they should respond because it's about them. This is not about immigrants. Immigrants are being used as a scapegoat to erode core American values, norms, and institutions. And what's happening to immigrants will happen to you. That's how the response should be. And so every person needs to fight for these core American values, and it should be in every way that you can. That's the response.
Memo, how should an Angeleno respond to this moment besides becoming a member of LA Taco? Which all of you should, by the way, folks. I'm not lying.
Thank you for that. Look, I think like what you said is spot on. The issue is not immigration. Immigration is the scapegoat. It's the shroud. It's the veil. We all know that what Trump is doing is creating his own police that's going to be attacking all his opposition, right? And we're being used as that testing ground, the excuse to validate that. So if you think this is not about you, it's about immigrants, it's about brown face, it's not going to affect you, like you are so blinded by this veil. And you need to wake up. And everybody needs to basic, what do you call it? Just basic, I forgot the word.
Español.
No, just basic civil duties. Okay? I got somebody who was like, man, I try to call my representative about the whole bill being passed, the extra funding. He said he only had like 40 calls that day. Like, calling senators, calling city council members, calling your representatives, like phone banking works. You put pressure on those people and you flood their phone calls. It works. If you can't get out there, if you have the means, donate to CHIRLA, to California Community Foundation, become a member of LA Taco. Either like use the money, be out there, and definitely just look out for your neighbors. But most importantly, awareness. I am so tired of constantly being the loud voice in a small room that nobody really hears. I mean, you guys have heard me, but like outside, there's so many people that think that this is not happening in LA, right? And it's you've seen it affecting our neighbors and the brown folks, but really the intention is to eventually take everyone's rights away.
In Mexico, there's a saying, pónganse las pilas. Put on those batteries. Now more than ever, it is the time to put on every single battery you have. Angelica Salas, Miguel Santana, Memo Torres, JANM, all of you at home, thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for caring. Thank you y gracias.